Cathaoirleach, Senators, fellow MEP, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here at this time to begin, if you like, this conversation. I suppose, firstly, in the context of COVID, it's great to actually be here on the ground and be physically in contact with people. I think for the first 7 or 8 months of my term as an MEP, it was literally all virtual. So the idea that we can actually sit down here and meet and converse together is very important. But I also think it's very important and both timely that you take this initiative to, if you like, take the European Parliament and the Oireachtas to that level of engagement, because I think it's a very important time in a European context. I suppose post-COVID at one level, but also there's something of a, if you like, some little bit of a crisis of identity almost in terms of where Europe is at this stage. And part of that, I think, is the genesis of why we're having the Conference of Europe at European level now. And I think it's very important. We, I suppose, as MEPs are struggling somewhat with the idea that to get people to engage with this whole process. At one level, there's a conversation, if you like, within the EU circle of things like a defence policy, the like of vetoes, the like of tax harmonisation. These are all issues that obviously are very important. But I think one thing that Europe is struggling with at the moment is the idea of how it connects with the ordinary citizen and the ordinary person on the ground. And for them, oftentimes these issues are very disconnected. And I think it's very important that through this Conference of Europe initiative that has been started on Europe Day this year, which will run for the next year and a half, that we get meaningful engagement from the ordinary people on the ground, that we make the citizens at the centre of the conference on the future of Europe, because there is an apathy out there that we need to deal with and need to address. And I think there's issues, we have to look at what issues are relevant to the ordinary European person. And I think if you look at Ursula von der Leyen's speech there last week, at the State of the Union speech, she focused a lot on some very, very key issues that we have to focus on. And certainly the likes of the initiative around young people, the Year of Young People for 2022 is very, very important. And equally, if you look at the line of the agenda that was there, it was around the environment particularly, it was around all if you like, the challenges that Europe faces in terms of international policy as well, and a whole range of areas that are very important. I think we have to try in ways to bring this back to the issues of the ordinary people. And I think if you look at the COVID situation over the last 12 or 18 months, you see where Europe, in terms of the COVID, we'll say the digital certificates and indeed the vaccines, became very relevant to ordinary people. And if we can make Europe relevant in that sort of a way, I think it's going to be very important. I think the like of, certainly Europe has done a lot of work in recent times around things like cancer care, preventative medicines, where we can look at vaccines in other areas, and things like this that actually make a difference to ordinary people, along with obviously the whole, if you like, obesity epidemic and positive mental health. These are all areas that relate to, that are relevant to ordinary people on the ground. And I think that's where we have to start. I think we have to look at the matters that for young people in terms of, like, there is an element of a disengagement, I suppose, with politics and with the body politic in general from young people. And sometimes politics at both European and national level becomes about party politics, and I think we have to bring it back to the issues. And that's what hopefully we can do with the conference on the future of Europe. There's obviously a key agenda there in relation to the environment. I think that's something, if we're talking about a dialogue between the Seanad and Europe, I think we have to look at the issues that we can look at of common interest to both, and the challenges we face in terms of our environment, the Fit for 55 package, that where we hope to reduce our emissions by 55% by 2030, and indeed climate neutrality by 2050. They are enormous challenges to meet, and yet if we approach them in the right way, we can get there. Obviously in areas like transport, in areas like alternative fuels and renewable energies. These are areas, number one, that is a massive challenge, but equally it's also areas where we have great opportunity. If you take here in Ireland, we probably, from a wind energy perspective, we're probably best placed across Europe to take advantage of that. And then if you build into that the idea of where, like, alternative fuels, be it hydrogen or things like that. These are things where we in Ireland can be a leader into the future. Offshore wind, particularly off the west coast, is something that could be an opportunity where we can get an economic multiplier in our local economy. So these are things I think we have to look at going forward and make sure that, if you like, we embrace the challenges and go forward in terms of taking the opportunities that they provide, particularly when you consider that if you focus on a rural Ireland context where we're always challenged in terms of the economic opportunities there in rural Ireland. And I think renewable energies, if we get the technologies right, as you say, I'm a substitute on the Transport Committee, and one of the big challenges we have is alternative fuels for heavy goods vehicles, for aviation. And if we can be leaders in terms of the research in that area, but equally in terms of the transition from, we'll say, renewable energies into alternative fuels for these areas, I think it's something we can really be very relevant for Ireland, and a massive driver in terms of regenerating our economy. Equally, I suppose, a key interest of mine is the whole area of agriculture. And I think in terms of agriculture, we certainly need to, if in many ways we are a market leader, in many ways there's also a concern out there among the people, let's say, in the agricultural sector, in the rural society, that in some ways agriculture has been targeted or faces major challenges in terms of meeting our climate goals. But I think there's an opportunity there if we focus particularly on the concept of sustainability. Irish agriculture is perhaps the most, well, certainly on the dairy side, it's recognised the most sustainable worldwide. And in beef, and indeed in tillage, we're not far behind either. So if we can focus on sustainability, I think sustainability will be the farmer's friend and the Irish farmer's friend, because if we are leaders in the area of sustainability, then we can be the ones best placed to take advantage of the opportunities that will provide in agriculture going forward. And I think this is a position we need to focus ourselves on, particularly going forward. But finally, I suppose, look, there are other areas. Obviously, we were here earlier in the year as regards Brexit and a number of other issues that I would like to touch on in terms of, let's say, particularly that are relevant to the constituency of Midlands-North-West. But I would like to bring it back, I suppose, to the Conference on the Future of Europe. There is, if you like, a challenge there to address an apathy and a concern about where politics as a whole is going. And if we can create a vision, and if we can create a strong link between this Seanad and the European Parliament, I think it would be a strength going forward. And hopefully I look forward to the questions later on, and we can take them there. Thank you.